Hi, I'm Chris, and today we're going to be looking at Ableton Live 12, and we are going to be turning a simple sine wave into a distorted drum and bass synth, and we're going to be using Live 12's new distortion plugin, Raw, and yeah, that's going to help us create this sound. So to start off with, literally all I've got is just a sine wave coming straight out of analog with a little bit of a pitch envelope as well. So as you can hear, that's super low and there's not really much going on. So yeah, it's time to add some distortion. If I come over to my audio effects here and then select distortion under devices, I'll be able to find Raw. And the first thing I want to do is basically drive the inputs. So you can hear we're already adding some higher harmonics. And yeah, the first stage of this when we're adding distortion is basically we want to add loads of higher harmonics that we can then sort of filter and work with later on. And yeah, next up, let's come over to stage 1 in the distortion network. And you can see I can change the shape down below here, but I'm going to stick with the soft sine for now. And I'm going to dial up the amount and you can hear the effect that this has. We'll leave that at around 70 for now. That's basically all I'm going to do for the first stage for now. And one of the great things about Raw is that you can actually add multiple stages of distortion. So to do that, you need to just come down into the routing here. And I'm going to select serial. This will give us a second stage of distortion. And you can see we've got the option to balance between the two with this blend dial here. 50-50 I'm happy with for now. But yeah, as I mentioned, we've got different wave shapes here. So if I come down here, I'm going to select a different one for stage 2. We're going to go with the trifold here. Again, what I'll do is I'll dial up the amount so you can hear what this sounds like. So it sounds pretty wild when it goes too high. I'm going to just keep that maybe around here. Yeah, around 29, 30 or so. Anywhere in that region is kind of good for what we want to do. So yeah, what we've done is we've successfully created a really distorted sound. What I want to do now is add a little bit of movement and interest. And to do this, Raw has got this really useful modulation matrix over here, which I can toggle like this. So basically the way this works is within the matrix, we select our targets and then we dial in the modulation source and then go back to mod sources and we can tweak that even further. So yeah, this is how you get your LFOs, maps to your frequencies, that kind of thing. Let's start off back with stage 1. I want an LFO to modulate the amount. All I need to do is click on the amount dial and you can see that shaper 1 amount is set to the target. And let's dial in LFO 1 and just see what happens. So already we've got some really nice movement there. I'll back off the amount a bit and let's check out what's actually happening in LFO 1. So I'm quite happy with that wave shape and I'm quite happy with the speed. I might experiment with the morph a little bit and the smooth just to adjust the shape a touch. Okay, cool, so that's already sounding a lot better. Back to the matrix, let's use LFO1 to modulate a couple of other parameters. Starting off with the frequency here. Let's dial that in. Okay, so that's sounding cool, really helping to add more movement. Into stage 2, I also want to modulate the amount here. So something like that sounds really good. And yeah, now we've got a bit more movement, it's time to fill out the tail of the sound. Because at the moment, you'll hear when I play and the sound stops, we've got a kind of gap at the end. And I'm going to use the feedback to add a tail to the sound. And this kind of creates that kind of modern drum and bass sort of sound. So yeah, what I want to do is come over to the feedback area over here. And I want to start dialing in the amount. Now I need to balance this with a little bit of the built-in compression too, because it can quite easily get out of hand if you turn the amount up too much without compressing it. What we don't want is our feedback to be way louder than the main sound. So the feedback's sounding quite loud there. I'm just going to dial that down a little bit, but that's roughly the right idea. And yeah, next up, I want to almost tune the feedback a little bit using the time dial in milliseconds. You'll hear what I mean. As I play around with it, the feedback will sound slightly out of tune and slightly more in tune at points. So yeah, around 22 milliseconds kind of works. And yeah, I can shape this further by using the filtering down here. This filters the actual feedback. So I was just tweaking the amount and the compression a little bit more just to get that sounding right. And yeah, that sounds pretty much how I want. I can add a little bit of further shaping to the sound. And what I'm going to do is use a different LFO just to modulate the feedback amount. So let's dial in LFO2 for this. I need to come back to my modulation sources, switch over to LFO2. So what I want is a really slow ramping up of the feedback amount so that when the tail of the sound starts, the feedback kind of comes in. To do this, I'm going to set the rates to 4. Let's use a ramp wave, and using a combination of the morph and smooth, you can see I can draw in effectively the shape I want, which as you can see is this ramping up effect. Let's take a listen. So now we've got that nice little feedback tail. And yeah, if I just add in a little bit of reverb and play this with some drums, here's the final sound. One final bit of shaping I might do is just this tone dial here, just to tame the highs a little bit. You can see that I started off with just a simple sub, and by adding in raw, I have completely transformed the sound. So yeah, raw is a super powerful distortion plugin. It can do everything from adding a bit of warmth to drums to completely changing the sound, as we have done here. Okay, so that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed this, check out our courses at pointblankmusicschool.com, and yeah, we'll see you next time.